This is a story of those in the twilight time, once human, now monsters, in a void between the living and the dead. Monsters to be pitied, monsters to be despised.
Hello and welcome to yet another Eloquent Gentlemen podcast, sponsored by the Respect Party. I'm Hayden Hewitt, and as ever I'm joined by Mr. David Flint.
Disrespect Party, I think, is what you're thinking of.
I think that sounds more correct, doesn't it?
I think that's a new party, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what I think we should start that, actually. It goes back to that horrible idea of standing for Parliament, but at least it'd be a more honest way of doing it. And
well, we don't actually have to stand for Parliament, do we? We can just form a party and then do nothing with it.
This is true. Hey, I like that idea. I like it a lot more than the idea of actually going through with it.
Yeah. Apathy is the way forward.
Well, as we pointed out, it'd just be, look, that I actually got elected. And then and then what do you do? Yeah.
Before you know it, you'd be running the country.
Oh, yeah, because that would be ideal, wouldn't it? Although saying that, I couldn't be any worse than our next leader, who is obviously Boris Johnson.
Yes, quite.
He's the next Prime Minister. Don't doubt it for a second.
No, he doesn't doubt it for a second. That's actually what he wants to reapply to be. We're
all going to play whiff waff while we bomb some brown people. Be fantastic under Boris.
He's clearly not very confident of David Cameron's ability to win next time, is he?
No.
So he's putting himself in position.
You know, things have gone badly when Boris fancies his chances, don't you, really? For any of our foreign cousins, Boris Johnson is amazing, and you really should Google him, because he's probably what you imagine an Englishman to actually be like, but even more stupid. And just incredibly. In fact, no, actually, that's doing him an extreme disservice, isn't it? Because he's actually not stupid in the least.
No, he's bright enough to make himself out to be stupid.
Yes. So you should check him out if you're from foreign countries. So we're trying to keep it tight this week. You can tell we're off to a very good start.
We've already dealt with Boris.
Yeah, well, there we go. You see, being efficient. We've already dealt with someone we weren't going to talk about. We before we do a podcast, we always have a phone call. We actually had the phone call. It's Wednesday evening. It's 11:15 at night, and we were going to do the recording last night, but things got in the way, etc. But we did have the pre-podcast phone call as usual, didn't we? And we
absolutely no use, obviously.
Yeah, and we talk about, what are we going to talk about? And one of the subjects that came up was Scottish independence, and we roundly decided it was too utterly boring and inconsequential to discuss. And then today, I got a text message. Fill us in.
Well, as you say, Scotland, and I'll be upfront here with my opinion. I know you genuinely don't give a toss either way, do you? But I'm all for Scotland being independent. I've been to Scotland. I quite like Scotland, well, bits of it anyway, the more civilised parts. I don't mind them being a foreign country, because if you get on a plane, you have to take some bit of ID with you anyway, so it might as well be a passport. It's no skin off my nose. But, as you say, a very dull subject. However, there's a journalist by the name of Yvonne Ridley, who rose to fame some years ago when she was kidnapped. Was it the Taliban? Or some other fanatic group?
The Taliban actually kidnapped her on the 28th of September 2001.
And then got rid of her very quickly afterwards.
8th of October.
Yeah, they didn't kill her when we say got rid of her. I mean, they just couldn't bear having her as a hostage anymore.
No. Well, apparently, while she was, chained to a radiator, I expect, because they like doing that, don't they? Radiators and things.
I believe that's the method, yeah.
Apparently, she was, one of her captors recommended that she convert to Islam. And she turned him down, but she did give her word to her kidnapper that she would read the Quran after her release. I'm going off Wikipedia.
Okay.
Apparently, it gets good. Once freed, I'm reading verbatim here now, by the way. Once freed, she kept this promise and read the Quran, looking for an explanation of the Taliban's treatment of women, only to find there wasn't any. Instead, and this is superb, instead she decided it was a Magna Carta for women. Saying the Quran makes it clear that women are equal in spirituality, worth, and education. What everyone forgets is that Islam is perfect, people or not. Exactly. So if you're ever raped as a woman, remember that you are equal in spirituality, worth, education, and bound to be buried up to your chest in a hole in the ground while men throw stones at you. Apparently she converted to Islam in summer of 2003, so it took her a couple of years, claiming that her new...
book, to be fair.
Yeah, apparently she claimed that a new faith had helped put behind her broken marriages and a reputation of the Patsy Stone of Fleet Street.
The what?
Yeah, apparently her reputation was as the Patsy Stone of Fleet Street. Who Patsy Stone? I had to look this up because I'm not down with the kids. It's Joanna Lumley's character out of Absolutely Fabulous.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Yvonne Ridley was just not that interesting.
I imagine not.
So anyway,
what she's saying is basically that she like the odd fag and drink.
Yes.
Cigarette for our American listeners. just to clear that up.
Yes, they do look at you funnily when you tell people I'm just nipping out for 20 fags.
Yeah, I wasn't being wildly homophobic there.
That's later in the conversation. So apparently in 2001 she released, in December, just 2 months after her capture, she released a book, In the Hands of the Taliban, a memoir detailing the 10 whole days she was held captive. In it,
long book, is it?
Well, in it, she expressed worries that officers from Mossad, the Israeli Secret Service, were plotting to have her killed in an effort to boost public support for the war in Afghanistan.
Oh, so she was already off on one at that point.
So by December, she was convinced Mossad were trying to kill her to boost support for the war in Afghanistan, because that would have made a difference. Hey guys, some journalist you never heard of is dead. Should we bomb Afghanistan?
Now, I'm wondering, why did she believe this? Did she have any evidence for this, or had she just been told this by her captors?
Well, I don't like to talk ill of people, as you know.
Of course not. No.
But clearly the woman's got issues. I mean, she went back on holiday in 2002 to Afghanistan. On holiday. With her daughter, Daisy.
To be fair, it is one of the top holiday resorts.
Absolutely. I'm thinking about taking my 2.5-year-old son over to Gaza for a fortnight.
Yeah, I mean, what doesn't have Afghanistan have, It's got something for all the family.
It's got war, public executions, disease, and at that point in time, a lot of munitions.
Yeah, a desert is a bit like a big beach.
Yeah.
It's a beach for people that don't like the sea.
Or people.
Yeah.
But clearly, it wasn't going right for her. The reason I say I don't want to speak ill of people is obviously she is now a campaigner for the Respect Party, which that we'll get round to. George is going to pop up later in it. But clearly the woman's got issues, but people might be out there wondering. I don't know if you even mentioned it at the start because I wasn't.
I didn't know. We were just building up to this.
Why is this lady who was kidnapped, converted to Islam, and convinced Mossad were going to murder her relevant in any way to Scottish independence? Well, David's going to tell you.
It's fantastic. She tweeted one of her many tweets. If you actually look her up on Twitter, every tweet she posts has the word Zionist or Zion or some variation on the theme in there. So you can see what's on her mind at the moment. And to be fair, that's on the mind of quite a lot of other people who are either concerned about the war in Gaza or just screaming bigots. So she actually said that you should support Scottish independence because Scotland could become a Zionist-free zone. And she said this on the basis that I think the Scottish National Front, or whatever they're called.
Scottish National Socialists.
Yes, whatever they're called, had basically said that we condemn Israel's actions and we think that the United Nations should say something about them. So, which is more than the British government has done. So therefore, that obviously shows that they are fully on side for deporting all Zionists.
Yes, so if you currently live in Scotland and you think that the state of Israel has a right to be there for whatever reason, basically, although we can't actually say hand on heart this will become policy.
No, I think she's putting 2 and 2 together and making 10.
Yeah,
but she's a wishful thinker.
She's thinking big. She's thinking big, and obviously not that she's in any way anti-Semitic or anything, and not.
No, just an anti-Zionist.
Yeah, exactly. I'm only anti-Zion, and I just want you to wear this yellow star, and
capital truck, and make your way out of the country. It'll be fine.
Here, sign this postcard.
Because this is the fascinating thing, isn't it? Because how do you identify who a Zionist is? Is it literally just somebody who thinks, Israel has the right to be there? In which case, that's probably a fair number of people.
I'm going to imagine someone in Ridley's state of mental health might go by the length of their nose or something like that. Or do they have Steen at the end of their name? Clearly a rampant Zionist. Just how ridiculous. I'm looking through her story. Obviously, she was working for Press TV, which is Iranian state television, which, of course, George Galloway has a TV program on, which, as we've discussed previously, there's absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever with a member of British Parliament having his own TV show on Iranian state television. What could be wrong with that?
No, and obviously he's just there, and I'm sure she's just there as well, to put the British point of view to the Iranians.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just looking here that she did go over to Gaza in 2009 without incident.
Okay, so nobody wanted to kidnap her?
No, apparently she did take part in the Viva Palestina convoy. Protests. I mean, speaking of, we'll get around to it later, but Gaza, I've just had a discussion with somebody today, and their hope of what will happen, not in terms of loss of life, but as a possible way of bringing it to a head, is that they'll send in another flotilla from Turkey, and then perhaps Israel can have a war with Turkey. Now, I'm no expert on things, but isn't another war, bad?
I imagine so. Is this basically to distract them?
I'm not sure. I think it's to make everyone see peace if Israel and Turkey have a bit of a showdown. You know what? I just don't see another war as being a great cure for a war.
No, and to be fair, I can see many, many holes in that argument. Are they basically saying that the mighty Turkey will be able to bring Israel to its knees?
Absolutely. Turkey's a large country with a modern military, quite a large modern military, but a surprising lack of huge fucking American bombs. That apparently Israel has. So,
yeah, I imagine, to be fair, they've got a huge lack of motivation to want to go to war with Israel. Yeah, they're probably not going to go to war over a flotilla.
No.
Of Western hippies.
Well, we just described because there's a lovely thread running through tonight's show, which I quite like, and most of it is based around people we detest. But Yvonne Ridley decided that Scotland should be a Zionist-free zone. Maybe Alexander Salmond will listen to her while he's not stood in his bedroom painting on a little Hitler tash and looking to the future. And by the way, I would say I am actually for Scottish. If that's what the Scottish people vote for, then they should have it. Simple as that. People take my utter indifference as being a sign of I don't approve. It's just that I'm actually utterly indifferent. I don't care what they do.
It's not really that concerning to us, is it?
No, it makes no odds to me. I did put this view across a little more forcefully on the phone earlier, as you know, but I'm actually probably not going to repeat some of the things I said, just in case we do have any Scottish listeners, because we can't afford to lose any listeners at this point. So
No, we fully support your right to vote whatever way you want to, or to do as I imagine most people in Scotland will do and just ignore the whole thing.
Just hope it goes away, because let's face it though, as boring as it is, like you were saying on the phone yesterday, it's not really independence, is it?
Well, it's a weird kind of independence because they still want to keep the Queen as the head of state. They still want to keep the pound. So you think, well, hang on a minute. Those are the two things that an independent state has. Its own currency and its own head of state. So if they don't want that, then I'm not quite sure what level of independence they're looking for.
And of course, we'll be setting their interest rates.
Exactly. It's a crazy, crazy situation.
So from Scotland, we come on to George Galloway, though not directly. We're not ready
Well,
for George.
yes, Scottish.
We're just teasing you with George Galloway.
God, that's an awful thought, isn't it? Somebody standing at the end of your bed in the middle of the night, teasing you with George. Or worse still, George Galloway standing at the end of your bed in the middle of the night, teasing you.
I did.
By leaving his ghastly penis in your face.
Just even George Galloway, just finding him in your garden at night, just staring at you, going, you!
Masturbating over a garden.
Yeah. With a little yarmulke on his head. Not that I'm accusing George of being anti-Semitic or bigoted in any way, shape or form, apart from the fact that he's a lapdog of the state of Iran. But we're not going to go to George's head. It's just that's the Scottish connection, you see, because he's Scottish. Well, kind of Scottish. Apparently he's Iranian now, I guess. But he's Scottish, so we've tied together, you see, and we're going from there to the BBC. And reporters in Gaza. We're not going to go into the Gaza thing because we've done that ad infinitum. We've got nothing more to add on that. The fucking thing is pointless. But one of the BBC's main guys over there is Jeremy Bowen. Very famous for hanging around and reporting the bare minimum and picking up a wage. And why not? And good luck to him, I say. Now, he's been in Gaza doing his thing. Apparently not much of a thing because Hamas have got ridiculously strict reporting restrictions on people. Although, have you noticed journalists aren't mentioning that? Yes.
This is the weird thing, isn't it? They normally tell us when, they're under reporting restrictions. Haven't seen any of that.
No, not a bit of it. But
anyway.
I can't imagine why that would be.
I can't either, because apparently, everyone's claiming that the BBC are Israeli lapdogs.
Not only claiming, apparently it can be proven. I was told that today as well. It's been proven by people far more intelligent than I that they have more guests on that are pro-Israel, apparently. But anyway, whatever. It's just wall-to-wall bollocks. Statistics are a game anybody can play, and so's research like that. It's all fucking futile and stupid. But of course, there's a big stink about people, and Jeremy Bowen is one of the more famous foreign correspondents, and all of a sudden, he stopped tweeting from Gaza.
Oh, sinister. Is he dead?
Well, no. You see, instantly, the internet was awash with information that he'd said something Israel didn't like, and they'd had him removed. Well, people were angry. People were on Jeremy Bowen's Twitter, and they demanded answers. And do you know what Jeremy told them?
I don't know. Was he allowed to tell them anything?
Yeah, he said, I'm on holiday. I'm on holiday. Ceasefire had just broken out, my favourite phrase for a ceasefire. And he'd gone on holiday, to which George Galloway, our favourite Scottish Iranian TV personality, promptly told him off.
And rightly so.
For going on holiday in the middle of such an important conflict.
Because he was an integral part of that conflict.
And this brings us on to another part, because David Cameron, our erstwhile shiny-faced Tory leader,
he's been on holiday.
He's gone on holiday, and people are incensed. How can he go on holiday whilst the smallest war in the region is raging?
Between two countries, neither of which are the UK.
You see, everyone tells me this is the most important war, but really, is it? I have to ask, does it make any difference? If you're really dreadfully honest, the least of our worries in the Middle East is what Israel do to them or what they do to Israel. We've got bigger fish to fry.
Shouldn't people be more concerned that Cameron's on holiday while, say, our favourite chums ISIS are committing genocide against the Kurds?
Yeah. And to which I would say, well, why shouldn't he go on holiday? What's it got to do with him?
Yeah.
And there's a lot more of that going on. I mean, the Kurds are used to us hanging them out to dry, though.
Yeah. I think these days, if I go on holiday, I'll probably have my phone with me. I could even take my laptop.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I can keep in touch with them. If I need to make a decision, I'll be there. It's not like, unless he's actually gone on, climbing the Himalayas or something.
But not only that, what did he want him to do? David, they've started fighting again. Right, I'll come home.
Yeah, because that'll help.
Yeah. Don't make me come in there, you kids. What do they want him to do? It's like Jeremy Bowen. How dare you leave in the middle of a conflict? Well, it's all right.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to change from not being there, reporting nothing from Gaza.
Yeah, I imagine that the BBC have got other correspondents in the area.
Apparently more people are there than were in Iraq, which kind of boggles the mind to a degree, doesn't it? And, of course, also...
Well, I guess it's a lot safer there than it is in
the other part is, of course, we've had Baroness Wassey resigning.
Oh, God, yes, Baroness Wassey.
And in just a moment, I'd like you to fill the cool people in on how wonderful she is. And more people threatening to resign over our policy on Gaza. And I didn't know we had a policy on Gaza. Now,
I'm not sure why we have to have a policy.
No. Well, I've had it put to me that this is a good thing because everything should start somewhere. And I'm going to put it to them that, you know what, a good time to start might have been when, I don't know, just a few years ago, we were killing thousands of Arab children with our bombs. Maybe that would have been a better time to walk out of Parliament rather than make a grand gesture over...
Stand up, have a bit of principle.
And all of a sudden they develop principle over a war that happens every 2-3 years. I'm sorry, this all stinks.
So what do you think the motivation for this is if it's not principle?
Well, I've not had time, sadly. I did want to, because call me cynical if you wish. Actually, you frequently do. I'd like to check out what their constituency is and the makeup of that constituency. And why this sudden attack of conscience from people in government who clearly are the most immoral people on the face of the earth. I would like to know, but I do have to look into that. But I mean, I think our good listeners could do with a little bit more information on this wonderful humanitarian, Baroness Wassey.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, I've got, our regular research page, Wikipedia, is open in front of me. And... I can tell you a lot about her dedication to human rights. For instance, in 2005, her campaign leaflets claimed that Labour's lowering of the homosexual age of consent from 18 to 16 was allowing school children to be propositioned for homosexual relationships, and that sexuality was being peddled to children as young as 7 in schools. Peddled, it's like... they were just handing it out, were they, in the dinner queue? Like, peas, potatoes, homosexuality. It's just ridiculous. Now, of course, she's apologised for that since, in 2013, because, people can change their minds, which, of course, is why she abstained in the vote for gay marriage. Immigration... She said that people who back the BNP may have a point. They have some very legitimate views, she says. Well, that's one way of describing their views. She's also quite a fanatic about religion, not just her own religion. She is a Muslim, but she's obsessed with faith. She's obsessed with the idea that a secular society is a dangerous society, that it's... what does she say here? When secularism is pushed to an extreme, when it requires the complete removal of faith from the public sphere, these are bad things. This is a threat to everything. The Church of England is the bedrock of society. We have an established church, she says. It's an incredibly positive aspect to our life in Britain, and long may it continue. So, she's not exactly the kind of person that we should be admiring, I would say.
No,
she's not somebody who's out there as a free thinker.
No, well, I expect her to turn up in the Respect Party at some point. Because I was just reading about Judge Galloway.
I imagine she's far too wishy-washy.
Oh, I don't know. She's got a bit of clout, you see. But
you think George would take a shine to her?
Well, I've just been... I mean, this is actually old news, because I like looking up what George has been up to be fair. And apparently, in 6 months, he earned £65,000 as a presenter and guest. Now, this is a member of British Parliament, guys, and I want you to imagine if you live abroad, especially if you're American, if a member of your Congress or a senator did these things. The Bradford MP is the highest earner of any member of Parliament, raking in the cash for his polemics against the West on the Kremlin-backed Russia Today and from LBP TV, a channel run out of the offices of Press TV, which is now banned by Ofcom. Now, Galloway still presents 2 shows for this Press TV channel, whose head was appointed by directly by the Ayatollah Khomeini. But he does this on an unpaid basis. So he's doubled his income on that because he gets £67,000 as a member of Parliament anyway. Apparently, he declared £25,600 for his work on Russia Today, £21,450 from LBP TV, and £18,000 from Arab-focused satellite channel Al Mayadeen TV. Between January and April, he's not even declared for May and June. Now, these programs, I have seen them. They're not very complimentary to the West at all. No. But Galloway hosts these 2 programs for Al Mayadeen, which is in Beirut, and it's funded by anonymous individuals, pretty much believed to be linked to Iran and Hezbollah, or to the Assad family from Syria, although this is denied from the channel. He has his return flights and hotel accommodation paid for, and apparently his spokesman says George does believe in spreading his message as widely as he can, not just through the prism of Parliament.
So just run that final figure by me again.
Yeah, it's quite a good one, isn't it? £65,000 in 6 months.
Has George ever, I wonder, made a speech in which he's condemned capitalism?
More than likely, he's condemned just about everyone. Let's have a look. He asserted on the Channel 5 show The Right Stuff in 2008 that the boyfriend of a homosexual Iranian asylum seeker had been killed for sex crimes rather than because he was gay. The only problem is it was Peter Tatchell that spoke up against him. And, of course, the worst thing that ever happened to gay people ever was Peter Tatchell.
But is George not kind of fudging the point there in the fact that, the sex crime in question was being gay?
Yeah, well, that's, because George doesn't confirm or deny he's a Muslim, apart from the fact that he's quite clearly a Muslim. And there's nothing wrong with being a Muslim, but we all know there's nothing quite as pious as a convert to anything.
Well, as we've seen with Ramon.
Yes.
He does seem fairly pious, it's got to be said.
She's quite sure. What was it she said about radicalisation?
Oh, if you're not radicalised, you haven't been paying attention. So, yeah, I mean, they are the Islamic version of born again Christians, aren't they? Just obsessive, fanatical, just mad, basically.
Well, the last thing about Ofcom, who don't always get things right, has to be said. With regards our George.
Very rarely, but with George, yes.
In January 2012, Press TV's licence to broadcast in the UK was revoked by Ofcom after an investigation into a broadcast it had aired of a confession from a captured journalist who claimed he'd been tortured before he was forced to speak on air. The investigation had revealed the editorial control of the channel came directly from the Iranian leadership. Oh,
so basically, George Galloway's working for the Iranian leadership.
Yeah, he works for Iran and possibly Hezbollah. And in the first 6 months of 2014, he also earned £20,677 as a journalist, writing for the Mail and Telegraph.
So just whatever monstrous regime there is,
yeah,
he's in there.
He's in there making a fortune, and. What makes me laugh, though?
Why, in the name of God, a newspaper like the Mail, what George Galloway writing for?
Who on earth knows? I mean, the best part is, I think that's what it meant by that's who he was writing for. Single biggest payer of employees. No, hang on, that's not right.
Oh dear!
Yeah.
Given our listeners wrong facts.
Yeah, basically, it's actually the largest payer to members of Parliament for journalism work is the BBC. But they don't hire George. They just hire other ones. The Mail and the Telegraph are the highest payers of the newspapers. But so that was a mistake on my part. Sorry, I just read it and got all excited.
Of money, we have just slipped off the fact of Baroness Wolsey.
Yes.
Was Galloway, and we haven't finished with her because also she was criticised during the parliamentary expenses inquiry. You'll be surprised to hear. She claimed up to £2,000 despite staying rent free. The 2,000's small potatoes, I guess, by parliamentary expenses standards, but it's still a bit of a dodgy thing. But she was cleared. So that's all right.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. She was also found to have committed a couple of breaches of the ministerial code. Again, minor, and she apologised, so that's okay. So, she's absolutely not at all vaguely corrupt.
No, nor would we claim otherwise. It's just marvellous how she can take...
Just staggeringly incompetent.
Yeah, it takes a massive stance for people thousands of miles away, but basically, like the rest of them, shit all over the people they're supposed to represent and serve. But I'm not going to start shouting because I will wake my son on. It gets very precarious whenever we get on the topic of politics. They start getting a bit shouty. I don't like them, Dave. I don't like them.
Who?
Politicians. People. Well, I was going to say just people then.
I thought you would talk about your family for a moment.
I quite like them. I'm used to them now. Quite fond of them, if I'm honest.
I believe you do get attached over the years.
Over time, yeah, you do. You get used to having people around and things. By the way, we're going to do something we really, really don't usually do, which is a plug. This is for a friend of the show, an avid listener, actually, Robert Ryan. If you search for some guy named Rob, SGNR, some guy named Rob on Facebook, SGNR Photography, some guy named Rob Photography. He does a lot of that, but he's trying to spot crowdfunding. And this is for a documentary called The Beautiful People. It's a style, beauty, and self-image, a documentary about all those things. And it's 100% Zomcom free, apparently.
I don't know what that means.
I think zombie comedy.
Okay.
Which, to me, bit of a negative. Because I like a bit of that.
To be fair, that's the least I expect from the documentary.
Is that it is a zombie comedy.
No. There's elements to it.
But he's trying
I would doubt its validity of a documentary if it had comedic zombies in it.
Unless it was a documentary on comedic zombies.
Well, yes.
Which, let's face it, who wants to watch that? Apart from me. But he's got this thing, it's on Indiegogo. And apparently the original project was about the loss of the Ottawa Fashion Week. And he's grown from there. He wants to make a documentary. He doesn't want a huge amount of money to do it. He's clearly a labour of love and interest on his part. So he's on Indiegogo. Search for The Beautiful People. You can search for it on YouTube as well. There's a video up there to, I guess, show it off and have a look. And if it tickles your fancy, a couple of dollars, get the ball rolling.
Why not? We do support the whole crowdfunding idea, which is why we'll end up doing it when we finally get around to it. So as long as Robert doesn't raise money for the next 8 years and not do anything.
No, he's definitely not one of those.
That's our good friend Anthony Lane.
our top chump.
Then it's fine. Yes, I totally encourage people to be altruistic, hand over your cash.
Well, he's set a very low, very reasonable goal for a small, tight documentary, and
that's good.
It's clearly the only way documentaries like this, small niche ideas and things, will happen is with the support of the people. And it's a good thing because nobody really loses. You only pay what you can afford. And like any crowdfunding, not to preach to the converted here, but if you think that just that small bit and tell people, the biggest thing you can do is tell people. Give a couple of dollars or tell the world and let people know. All you're doing, whether you're even into the idea of the documentary or not, you're keeping a dream alive that was impossible before.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important, which is why it's important when we launch ours. People should give a little more than they can afford.
Absolutely, because our dreams are big. We'll be demanding huge amounts of money, but not as much money perhaps as the journalist who wanted 10 grand so that she could carry on writing reviews of films she'd watched on Netflix.
That's marvellous. I want £10,000 to tell you what's good on Netflix. I'll tell you what, dear.
Yeah.
How about I just have a look myself?
What was especially great, though, is that, her site is behind a paywall. And if you donated £30, you didn't even get behind the paywall. Got a postcard.
Well, clearly that's got success written all over it, isn't it? Mind you, saying that the way crowdfunding's going at the minute, it probably bloody will be.
Well, it's quite interesting because as we're onto crowdfunding, I think we should, I'll make passing mention of Altfest, which I don't know if you heard about the whole scandal of that. This was the big music festival that was supposed to be taking place in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh.
First time it was alternative culture, so they had like the industrial stage, the goth stage, the metal stage, the steampunk stage, the whatever else. Basically, they had 5 stages. They had like Cradle of Filth, Marilyn Manson, The Cult, God knows who else booked as headliners. So it was a fairly big thing.
Yeah.
It fell apart really badly. Because everybody knew that it had been cancelled days before the organisers got round to announcing it, mainly because all the bands were dropping out and announcing the fact they dropped out.
Oh, dear.
Reasonably, people got upset because, these are people who maybe booked travel, they booked hotels. Every day counts when it comes to cancelling something like that.
Of course.
And for the organisers to not say anything for 3 days was rather bad. But this was a crowdfunded event. So people who bought their tickets through the crowdfunding thing on Kickstarter won't see any money back.
No.
Because, that's not like paying with your credit card for a ticket. That's actually giving a donation. But part of the donation, thing was that you could pay X amount of money, I forget how much it was, for your ticket. So if you paid them, £100, I think, or whatever, that would be the ticket.
And of course, no tickets, but no refund because you made a donation. You didn't purchase anything.
And, if they didn't do the event, Kickstarter would give you your money back. But if the whole thing just failed, then, that's not counted as fraud. And it's not fraud, it's just a badly...
It's deceitful.
Idea.
I think this is going to be a huge problem with crowdfunding, and I've been looking into this a lot lately for business reasons, not even for crowdfunding, just things related to crowdfunding. Obviously on a far more businessy level.
Of course.
But I think there's going to have to come a time where people crowdfunding a project are going to have to show some form of due diligence. And God, I'm getting all serious and heavy here.
Well, I think it's not what you mean is the crowdfunding organisations.
The people that want to raise money by this manner should show due diligence in that they've done a correct and had a professionally constructed business plan. They've got all the ducks in a row. They've got projections of cost and profits and things of this nature. And they've done what too many crowdfunding things seem to be is, I've had this really great idea, don't know anything about anything else, but I think I'm going to need some money.
Yeah.
And possibly the worst kind is the one where, you ask for £100,000 because your project needs £100,000. It would be realistic for us to assume you've done the business plan, you've had the professional advice, you need £100,000.
Yeah.
And I think is it Indiegogo where if you only raise 50 grand, you can just have that?
Yeah, Indiegogo, you keep what you raise, so you've got to get the full amount.
For a small project, it might be all right. It gets things right. But for a big project that requires big money, what's 50 grand going to do? I'll tell you what it's going to do: be pissed up the wall because the business will fail.
Yeah, I mean, if you need 100 grand, then you need 100 grand, don't you?
50 grand is not even going to encourage private investment because you can't go, I've crowdfunded half of it, they'll not be interested. So I think there's got to be a little more shown in due diligence and people doing things, but it's still a little bit of the Wild West.
Of course, and and as you say, people are, they're taking their chances with all this.
Yeah.
You're taking these chances on whether the project appears. I think the thing with Oakfest that got me a little bit was the fact that one of the things that you could do was get your ticket. So if you basically paid for your ticket 2 years in advance, whereas if you bought it from a ticket agency when the actual event,
you could get a refund.
Together, you'd be getting a refund. And as I say, I'm not. It is just the case of the organisers biting off way more than they can chew, but they shouldn't do that.
No.
If you're doing a music festival and your only experience of anything before running nightclubs, I don't think you do a 5-stage event, do you?
No, well, I wouldn't
with
to.
Hundreds of bands.
I think, what they should have done is that should have been privately financed.
Yeah, you start small. You do the first one small and you build up year by year. Because I think they also worked on the idea, I think I read somewhere that, Manson can sell out a 5,000 seat venue, and so can Cradle of Filth, and so can the Cult, and so can this band. It's like, yeah, but not to different people. That doesn't add up to 15,000 people. That possibly adds up to 6,000 people who are all into the same 3 bands.
Yeah, if I wanted to put on a 5-stage event, I would crowdfund enough money in order to hire a team of people experienced at putting on huge events.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking I was capable myself.
Yeah, it's a shame for people that lost, but then that is the curse of crowdfunding, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to take a hit on it sometimes.
But you are always taking a risk, and you should never.
To be fair,
afford. But then we're talking all this now, and we've just immediately put anybody off from giving money to.
Well, no, to be
Robert.
fair,
So let's say that again. His project isn't asking for vast amounts of cash.
His is due diligence. He is a professional photographer. He does, done a lot of photography work with the fashion. And the idea is to give you a behind the scenes look at the impact of Fashion Week. So not just Fashion Week in Ottawa, the whole impact of it on the wider community, I imagine, and the world of style, beauty, and self-image from the point of view of working models, photographers, stylists, designers, things like that. And he's got it all worked out. He knows the talent that he needs for the production gear. So this is a small, cool project. He's, not asking for, massive sums. There's none of that, where you jump from $50 to $10,000.
Yeah.
The largest donation is $50. He's working it correctly. He's working it.
Absolutely, and and there have been some great projects that have come off through crowdfunding, and so I think people should go check that out and give what they can afford.
Absolutely, just even a small amount, because if it doesn't fund him completely, it would certainly get someone that was dedicated to doing what they want to do. It would fire them up to know there was even some support out there.
Absolutely,
and it is tax deductible for most countries, I believe. An investment in a company or a project has a tax element to it. Although I wouldn't swear to it, I'm not an accountant.
No, and I also think with a project like that, then every penny does count, because as we were just saying about not reaching goals, something like this, every penny counts because it always gets you further. It gets you nearer.
Absolutely, and the goal is only $3,000.
Yeah, so
he's working on the bare bones of this, you know what I mean? He's really, really working on the bones of it. You and I both know documentary, $3,000, it's not a lot of money.
Not a lot at all.
No, so he's really going for it. So yeah, it's called The Beautiful People, Style, Beauty and Self-Image by Robert Ryan. You can find it on Indiegogo. He's on Facebook. Robert Ryan from Canada, somewhere in Canada. He hangs out on the Eloquent Gentlemen Facebook page on occasion as well, so you can probably ask him there, and he might even post, I imagine.
I'm sure you can, and if we're feeling particularly generous, we might even post a link on there.
Yes, well, okay, he's a nice guy.
Yeah. Oh, not yet. See how we feel.
See what mood.
Exactly.
Later on. And remember that for everyone else, go if you're listening to this elsewhere. I'm not even sure where this one's going out, because we've had murders with the hosting. So this might turn up on YouTube in 3 days. I've got no idea where this is. But wherever it's turned up, check out the Facebook page. It's Eloquent Gentlemen on Facebook, and go there. We're on Twitter We've not got a website yet because we've not done the crowdfunding yet. I know what you're thinking. Why do you have to crowdfund for a website? It's because we're very important people and we're going to give you some desperately good content.
Absolutely.
But we'll release
a live feed of Hayden standing in the garden,
shouting at neighbours and things,
looking at strange insects.
Oh yeah. Still don't. I think it was a cricket. Do they have wings?
No, I'm fairly sure they don't.
What was it then?
It's a locust.
You don't get locusts in Manchester. Well, I don't know, actually. I didn't even know you got grasshoppers in this country.
Yeah, so what do you know?
Do you know what? I know a lot more about great white sharks than I do the indigenous animals of this fair isle.
Well, to be fair, if you saw a great white shark at the end of your garden, that would certainly be something to talk about, wouldn't it?
I'd probably phone you up.
Yeah, I imagine so. I'd hope you'd take a picture.
Dave, you're not going to believe this, mate. I've got a bloody shark in the garden. Ghost shark or Sharknado, I would expect.
I imagine so. I've not seen Sharknado 2. Everyone assures me that it was great.
I've not seen Sharknado 1.
Oh, well, that was spectacular.
I've not gotten around to it yet. I've just been busy just doing anything except watching Sharknado.
You clearly haven't been busy.
But yeah.
Anyway, we're wandering off the point.
Well, we're doing our end of show waffle here, aren't we? But yeah, please like.
There is one more story.
Oh, go on.
I think we seem to be sort of ending the shows at the moment on outrageous moments of censorship and morality.
Cool.
Here's a great one. 2 men fined £500 in, where was it? I can't actually see the whereabouts it was. Somewhere in England, basically, for possession of extreme pornography. Now, extreme pornography is something that is a British government invention.
Why did I just want to say tradition?
Yeah, when I say invention, I don't mean that the British government go around shooting this stuff. Basically, a law was passed in 2009 that outlawed possession of extreme pornography, which is basically, to nail it down, it's animal porn, necrophile porn, or images of sexual violence that are realistic, not necessarily real, just realistic.
Have you ever come across any necrophilia porn?
No, I don't think anybody ever has.
No, I had thought I would have by now. Oh no, that's a lie. No, it's a lie. No, it wasn't actually. Well, I don't know. Is it classed as porn? It was that Canadian serial, the Canadian murder.
No, it's also got to be shot for sexual reasons.
All right, just a guy having his way with a dismembered arsehole doesn't count then. I
wouldn't like to test it in court, but
okay. Just wondered. It's not that I have that on my phone.
No. But these two chappies did have something on their phone. Now, it was thanks to the good people at Court News UK, and I do recommend that people do check out Court News UK because it's fantastic for spectacular headlines quite often. But the material they had featured a man pumping air into his disfigured genitals. I don't know how his genitals were disfigured before the air went in or afterwards, it doesn't say. A woman having sex with a horse, and this is a strange one, a man having sex with an amputee.
Now I've got to say, the bestiality one, I get we have a law against bestiality. How are the other two particularly illegal? And also, is there a law against shagging amputees now? I mean, not that I do it, but one day I might.
It's the weird thing, isn't it? I mean, pumping air into his disfigured genitals. Well, that's a bit vague, because we don't know the circumstances of that. We don't know how.
He might have just been having a laugh.
Yeah. Is it something that's going to cause serious or life-threatening injuries? That's the question. I'm not sure it is. And having sex with an amputee. Well, first of all, we don't know how he was having sex with an amputee. Which bit was amputated? Was somebody being given a stumping? But I'm fairly sure that it's not illegal to have sex with somebody who's had a leg or an arm chopped off.
That'd be a bit harsh on them, really, wouldn't it?
And I'm fairly sure that it's not illegal to look at pictures of that happening either. But these two guys basically pleaded guilty because they had really bad legal advice, probably. because, and this is what the amazing thing is, they were both sent this material by somebody else on WhatsApp, which I believe is what the kids are into these days. So it was it was unsolicited. B, one of them never even saw the material. Basically, one of them looked at it and deleted it. The other one didn't even look at it and deleted it, but it was probably saved onto their camera roll. Now, I don't know what the whole WhatsApp thing is about, but it obviously saves this shit, and if you don't delete it in a certain way. So neither of these guys knew this stuff was on their phone. Neither of them had requested it. Neither of them had particularly enjoyed it. One of them hadn't even looked at it, and they still were convicted. And they were convicted under a law that, when it was passed, we were told would only be for the most extreme cases. And there would only be about 12 estimated prosecutions a year. So far, there's been about 1,000 a year. Because the police use it as a great clear-up thing. You know, these guys were stopped at Fenchurch Street Station in London, and the police looked at their phone. They were stopped for a different thing. They weren't stopped because the police thought, oh, you've got some dodgy shit on your phone. You know, they were stopped for a reason that's not been specified, that they weren't then charged with. You know, so maybe just being a bit boisterous, making a noise. Who knows what they'd done? But the police will stop you now. They'll look through your phone. Look for things to get you on.
And they don't need a warrant to look through your phone, which I don't understand, because isn't that your personal property?
It is, but, you know, they don't need a warrant for a lot of things these days.
Yeah, I thought to check through that, they'd have to take you down to the station and take all your things. Can a policeman actually say, give me your phone?
Yeah, give me your phone, and then we'll start flicking through it.
I'm not sure they ever. Well, I guess they must have a right to do that if it went to court. And
I mean, the problem is, you know, as I say, you know, for these two guys, that they did plead guilty, and they shouldn't have done that. If they'd had decent legal advice, then they wouldn't have been convicted. And the reason they only got £500 fined is because, you know, the judge has said, you know, the punishment is lenient because neither of them has solicited the material or even looked at it.
That's just scandalous. You know what? I can't even comment on this.
Isn't it? It sounds ridiculous. I mean, the fact that you can actually be sent down just for owning a picture.
Yeah, especially if, I mean, like I say, I know bestiality's been on the books for years.
Well, actually, you know...
But is it something you should be sent down for having a picture of?
Yeah, it wasn't illegal to possess until this law came in.
Because what's covered now, it's violent sexual activity, bestiality, necrophilia.
Yeah, I mean, and the violent stuff, it's basically, it can be anything.
Yeah, it's pretend nonsense. But
yeah,
how did
extreme BDSM stuff?
How did necrophilia get on there, though? Because, do you know, as you know, and some of our listeners will know, I have certainly plumbed the depths of the internet in my online career. And I think I'd have seen quite a bit of it, you know, coming down the pipe, as it were.
It does seem like the ultimate niche things, doesn't it? Because, you know, how the hell is somebody going to actually get enough of that material to run a website?
And not only that, how is there enough of it to mean we need legislation for it? Surely, you know, that would be covered by...
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you'll be unsurprised to hear, there haven't been any cases involving necrophilia. But, you know, almost all the cases...
But we live in hope.
Yeah, almost all the cases involved animals, and quite a few have involved, you know, quote-unquote violent sexuality, which...
Oh, that's just
it's often staged by actors.
Yeah, who are willing participants.
Yeah.
Consenting adults doing what they want to do, because obviously that's terrible now that consenting adults should do anything.
And doing what they want to do, but also doing things that are not illegal to actually take part in.
Yeah, but it's illegal to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, the bestiality thing, I can because everything to me should boil down to consent. And you can't consent if you're underage legally. You know, everything should boil down to consent. With bestiality, there can't be consent. And let's be honest, it is wrong to fuck dogs.
No, you know, they can't. Equally, of course, they can't consent to be eaten, can they?
No, but the fact is, one's more socially acceptable and, I guess, to a
And of
degree,
course.
necessary than another. That I can't think of any, even if on my worst day of playing devil's advocate, I could not think of a way of defending bestiality. But, sometimes, I guess, the animal isn't harmed. Whatever.
I think the main thing to take away from this is that, according to at least one British court, having sex with an amputee is as bad as having sex with a horse.
Yeah, that must make amputees feel great.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think that the disabled rights lobby would be up in arms about this, or at least one arm.
Or just, waggling a small flipper-like appendage around would be a start. But the thing with the bestiality and stuff like that, and shitting things and all, they used to get sent around as jokes.
But that's the whole point. That's what almost every case that this law has caught. It's been people who've owned things that have been given to them as a joke.
Yeah, look at this image. Look at the. I mean, as soon as it went in the late 90s.
It actually says in the report on this that the material found on the phone of these guys was sent to them for shock value.
So they've done nothing wrong.
Yeah, not to arouse them, and that's the other point, because the law says that it's supposed to be there for sexual arousal.
Yeah.
So the law isn't being applied even as it's written.
Well, it's usually too vague anyway,
It's a terrible law, and it's being used incredibly vaguely, and defence lawyers, by and large, have no idea what this law is.
No.
And tell people, oh, plead guilty.
So you need a specialist lawyer, and luckily there are some around.
There are some around. I mean, if you go on Twitter, there's a guy who goes under the handle of obscenity lawyer.
I like him. He retweeted one of my articles once. Good chap.
Yeah, and he's handled quite a few of these cases, and I think he's got quite a few people off.
So if you find yourself accidentally in possession of bestiality, necrophilia, shitting, especially with people with arms or legs missing, he's probably the guy to go to.
Yeah, and my God, that's all in the same picture.
Well, I was just thinking that I'm going to try and find someone and send it out to everyone I know and just see what happens. just see how many people can get in trouble. I will obviously disinfect it from my system.
I was about to say that would be a challenge for your Photoshop skills, but then I forgot the kind of sites that you've worked with. I'm fairly sure you could just find that image somewhere.
Why even mess around with Photoshop? Just find it done for real and pass it along. But I think I'd been on the internet like 5 minutes in the late 90s when I first got an email off a friend saying, this woman will do anything for you. And there's a woman enjoying a large, nice, tasty poo. I don't mean having a poo, by the way.
No,
hence use of the word tasty. Or it appeared she found it quite delectable. And that was within 5 minutes of being on the internet. Well, now you could get in trouble for this, I imagine, because let's face it, if you got a picture of someone having sex with an amputee, then eating poo's got to be terrible.
Well, again, that's oddly not covered by the law yet, although I'm sure that...
Still too many people in Parliament enjoy doing that, clearly.
Yeah,
coprophiliacs everywhere.
That'll be another loophole that will be covered in a couple of years' time, no doubt.
Yeah, so...
But I thought you could just put in a call to some of your pals in Mexico and say, I've got a special request for you.
Will you knock us something together? I'm so glad I don't have pals like that in Mexico. Not really. It's just pretend. But people say that to us, I know I don't often talk about Live Leak or my involvement there in other things, but you'd be amazed at how many people, including journalists, when we used to do a lot of interviews before we stopped doing them, would say things like, how do you feel about the jihadists uploading videos to your website? I'm like, dude, the guy that cut that person's head off did not upload this video to Live Leak. This is not how it happens. And, those Mexican guys, they didn't go, let's make this a special one for Live Leak. It's not a website comprising of terrorists.
I do quite like the idea. It's like, beheader #1 has posted another video. Mexican guys are wearing Live Leak t-shirts.
Well, of course, that'd be the worst nightmare, wouldn't it? Someone just leaning in, photobang going, this is for all my homies on Live Leak.
This is for Hayden.
That'd be worse. That's worse than my face being on someone's leg, isn't it?
That's a terrible thing. And your face is on somebody's leg.
Yeah, but I could live with that a lot more than saying that someone was beheaded in my honour.
by a man wearing a T-shirt with your picture on it.
Feeling a bit sick now. I'll probably get a phone call soon off somebody. Oh, they'd want me back on Newsnight then, wouldn't they? Gee.
I imagine so, but I think Paxman would give you a harder time.
Well, he's gone now, hasn't he?
He has. He'd probably come back just for that.
Yeah. So how do you feel about this, Mr. Hewitt? Great. I've been assured that the people that were beheaded by the guy with the Hayden T-shirt were very bad people. So we can just go with that and pretend in some alternate universe they deserved that, what happened to them. And can we just go with that, please? Because I'm having a lot of trouble sleeping at night.
What if it was? No, never mind. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go there. That would be incitement or something. So.
Yeah, we'll do that. You can tell me on the phone tomorrow or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's another. I think that's another episode put to bed.
Yeah, we've ended on a jolly note, haven't we?
Yeah. People beheading other people wearing a T-shirt with my face on it. What nicer note could we possibly end on? But hey, whenever you...
This is not, by the way, if anyone listening who's inclined to do this, this isn't a request.
Yeah,
to do.
I really would prefer it if you didn't do it. Do you know what? In fact, just never mind just the T-shirt. Just don't behead anyone for a bit, yeah? Have a break from it. See if you can get out of the habit. I don't think any of our listeners do, but you don't know these days.
No, try a bit of negotiation with these people instead.
The Eloquent Gentlemen say beheading is bad.
Yeah, try talking about it.
I say it's practically a fucking public service, this, isn't it? Hey?
It is. It's like an educational thing.
Our listeners don't know how lucky they are. They don't know how lucky they are that they're not sat with us. But I think that's the end. Whenever you guys get to hear this, I hope it's not too long between the recording and you listening, but we'll make that happen. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Get in touch, say hello, leave a post. Well, we'd like that. Nearly forgot. Remember to visit our individual sites. Mine's haydenhewitt.com, and David runs the absolutely awesome strangethingsarehappening.com, which, by the way, I spent 45 minutes on today.
Did you?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of reading.
You were just reading that one review?
Yeah, basically, because it was just, took me a while. I read slow. But no, there's a lot of great content on there at the moment. So
no, I'm glad to hear it.
Not saying that there usually isn't. It's just obviously I usually don't look.
No, of course. Wait, no, let's not get into some backslapping.
No, I was heading towards the stabbing, actually, but there we go. But yeah, hey, I've enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure David...
It's been good.
It's
been special.
It's been very special in a mittens on elastic kind of way. And I'm sure we'll be back to speak at you next week. And all that's left to say is night-night.
Goodbye.